We're off to a good start. The slide won't slide through. So as you're aware, at the moment we've got a live courses application round open, and in this particular application round we are recruiting for our winter 2022 to 23 courses. So just to specifically note, for this round we have 2 courses that are open for applications. The first is our Emerging Leaders course, which is a residential 1-week course, and we will be taking applications for 2 of those courses in this one application round. The second course that we have applications open to is Leadership Pulse. Again, it's a residential course, this time delivered in 2 modules, spaced apart over a month. And this course also includes individual coaching sessions and small group coaching conversations. So to talk a little bit more about those 2 courses, Emerging Leaders is our early stage career course, which is for cultural sector leaders and change makers with around about 2 to 5 years experience and some experience of initiating or managing projects and people. When we're talking about leaders, we're really referring to individuals who are involved in some aspect of change making. So one thing to really clarify as part of this Q&A today is that you don't necessarily need to be involved in a line management or leadership role in a sort of hierarchical sense within an organisation. By leadership, we are talking about individuals who are interested and have a desire to make an impact in the wider world of arts and culture. So for Emerging Leaders and how it differs from Leadership Pulses, we're really looking at individuals who are earlier on in that leadership journey, so around about 2 to 5 years experience and some experience of initiating or starting to work in a change making or a line management or a leadership role. For this course round, we're advertising for applications for 2 runs of the courses. So the dates there are on the screen, the 28th of November to the 2nd of December 2022. And the second course is the 27th of February to the 3rd of March. And when you make your application, you have the opportunity to tell us which of those courses you want to apply for, or you can apply for both at the same time. If you apply for just one of those courses, it will be that if you're successful, we will place you on your course choice. If you elect to apply for both, then it will be one or the other. And if you're successful, it'd be one or the other that we would place you on. And if you were offered a place, I'm afraid we wouldn't be able to swap you to the other course if you'd made a choice for one. In terms of the content, the course has 3 areas of focus to support you on your leadership journey. The first is to help you understand your own leadership style. So there's course content that really helps you to dig deeper in understanding who you are as a leader, your styles, how you work in the world of arts and culture, and what your leadership journey means for you. The second area is around the business of leadership. So that's more the kind of tools and the strategy piece and some of the skills that you need as a leader to help you develop your leadership journey. So that might be around financial management, it might be around thinking strategically, it might be around some of the nuts and bolts of working as a leader, be it within an organisation or as a freelancer. And the third area is how your leadership works alongside others. So as you would expect, there is content that is around how you work as a leader, be it with a team that you're as part of, or be it in terms of your collaborators or partners if you're a freelance. The second course that we have applications open to at the moment is our Leadership Pulse course. And this is really for leaders that have a minimum of 5 years experience as a cultural sector leader or change maker. So really it's about leaders who are already established and are looking to take their leadership to the next stage. Again, we're talking in the broadest possible sense about leadership. So this course is open again to folk who are working within an organisational structure, but also freelance artists, freelance producers. The dates are on the screen here for the winter course for which we've got applications open at the moment, but module 1 will run from the 16th to the 20th of January 2023, and module 2 will run from the 20th to the 24th of February 2023. In terms of the content, Again, there is some similarities with the Emerging Leaders course. There's a lot of the content is focusing in on helping you understand more around your own particular leadership style. Again, there is content which looks at how you lead and work with others and how you manage resources. There's a focus around leadership for change and how you would implement that change in your own particular context. And one area where Leadership Pulse differs from Emerging Leaders is that there is some follow-on support in the mode of individual coaching and group coaching work. And some of that will happen while you're on residential with your cohort, but some of that will happen beyond the course itself proper. One of the questions we had in advance was whether there are any age restrictions as part of the application process. Absolutely not. We will accept applications from applicants of any age range. We are more focused within the criteria around what your experience level is. And if you've got any questions about, if you're just on the cusp and not quite sure which of the two courses might be best suited to you, you're very, very welcome to have a conversation with a member of the team to help you tease out which route you might decide to go down. In terms of the course finances, on the screen you can see there the course bands which are the course fees for both of the courses. So for our Emerging Leaders course, which is subsidised through funding from Arts Council and other funders, we have 2 fee bands dependent on the size of your operation or your organisation. And for Leadership Pulse, again, which is subsidised through funding from Arts Council and other funders, we have 4 fee bands. If you're applying as an applicant who wouldn't be eligible for the Arts Council or other funding, the unsubsidised course fee would apply. And for Pulse, the unsubsidised fee is £4,700, and for Emerging Leaders, that's £2,300. And we do try and prioritise applicants who are applying for a subsidised place. Obviously, we appreciate that course fees are a significant challenge for the cultural sector at the moment. We are very aware of the financial pressures around arts and culture at the moment. So we do offer a range of different bursaries that applicants can apply to when they put in their application, which will either fully fund or part fund those fees, dependent on your individual fee band. Each round of applications that we offer, there are a range of different bursaries that are applicable to that round. And they do vary from round to round, depending on what funding we have available for that particular applications round. So there are some bursaries which are available with a sector or perhaps a regional or geographical focus to them. And we do offer targeted bursaries as well that are available for applicants from underrepresented groups. So we're particularly keen in that area to hear from more applicants who are deaf, disabled or neurodivergent, and also applicants who are Black, Asian and ethnically diverse, recognising that they are underrepresented groups within cultural sector leadership. You are also able to apply to request support with caring costs. So this might be childcare costs that you might incur through attendance at the residential course. That's separate to the bursary. So when you make your application, you're able to tell us about any likely costs that you might incur, and that's additional to the fee bursary support, if you like. So that is really an access support measure to help you enable you to be able to attend and support your attendance on course. The details of all the individual bursaries that we have available for this round are on the website, together with information about their eligibility. And I would really encourage you to read carefully the details of each of those bursaries before you put your application in, to make sure that you're sitting squarely in the eligibility criteria for any bursary that you're applying for. You're able to apply for up to 2 bursaries as part of your application. You're also able to apply without bursary support if you wanted to as well. And within the application process, there is a question where you're asked to expand on your eligibility for the bursaries to which you're applying. So that's an opportunity for you to tell us why you feel you might meet the criteria. For example, for the theatre bursary, just to tell us a little bit more about how you meet that eligibility. And to clarify, if you're successful and we make a course offer, we would offer you your course place with the bursary that you've applied for, or at least one of the bursaries that you've applied for. So there won't be any nasty surprises in that respect. If you're offered a course place and we're not able to provide a bursary, you would receive the bursary that you have requested with your application. So in terms of the process to apply, I think someone's just joined us. If we can ask you to put yourself on mute, that will help as I'm just presenting at the moment. Fantastic, thank you. So in terms of the application process, the first thing you need to do is make sure you read all the course information and the criteria, and obviously have a think about which of the courses might be best suited to you and best feel you meet your leadership development needs at this moment in time. We have a document on our website, the Essential Guide to Making Your Application Online, which walks you through the application questions, and it also gives you some top tips on making your application successfully. You will need to register for an account on the Clore Leadership website, and through that you'll be able to get into our applications portal. If you want to make an application in an alternative format, so for example, if you wanted to send us a video submission, if you wanted some support with writing your application in a Word document or in an alternative format, that's absolutely fine. Please do speak to a member of the team or get in contact with a member of the team beforehand so that we can support you as you need. So once you've registered on the portal, if you're applying via the portal, the application questions will open up for you. And the first thing that you need to do as part of your application is to provide us with details of a nominator. And the nominator is a really critical part of your application, and is somebody who will run in support of your application, but also tell us a little bit about what the potential for you and what the potential development areas are for you from attending the course. It's really important that you get onto the nominator good and early, because we're not able to accept your application without that nomination. And we do know from experience that it can take a wee while for the nominators to complete that section, and we really recommend that you get onto that good and early so that there isn't a last minute rush. You'll complete and submit your application online, so there are different sections that you fill in, and as you complete each section, the subsequent section will go live, and you're able to edit as you go. But once a section is submitted, that section is kind of gone into the system. And once you've completed your application, there's a final monitoring section which we ask all applicants to complete, which helps us get a sense of in terms of who's applying to our courses, how we're doing around equal opportunities. There are 24 places available on each of the courses, and we will have a waiting list as well. So if there's any changes in circumstances, we would work through the waiting list. And please, at this point in application as well, because we have 2 rounds of emerging leaders, please do indicate, as I said before, whether you're applying for one of the emerging leaders courses or you wish to be considered for both. In terms of some tips around making your applications, please do read the Essential Guide to Making Your Application Online document. We have a sign language version of that document, a sign language video version of that document online as well, which includes captions and an audio description of the document. Please do choose your nominator carefully and in good time. A top tip is we often get asked, is the role or the name of the nominator really, really critical? It's not. We're really looking for what the meat of the content of that nomination is about. We're not interested in whether they're really famous or they've got a really swanky job title. We are interested in what they have to say about you, the applicant, and the potential for your development from attending the course. We really encourage you to be brave and honest about who you are and what change making and leadership means for you within your application. We're not looking for polished leaders. We're not looking for the finished product, but we are really looking for individuals who are reflective, open to learning, curious, open to being challenged and exploring new areas of thinking about themselves and about the wider world. So we would encourage you to be brave and honest about that in your application. And we're really keen that you write as yourself. So we're not looking for funding application speak or polished prose. However you want to present your application in the application form, absolutely fine. We're not looking for buzzwords. We're not looking for polished prose. In terms of the timeline for this round of applications, we're open at the moment. And if you've got any queries or specific questions, I'll try and get to those later in this Q&A, or you can get in contact with a member of the Clore Leadership team. We're more than happy to spend a little time having a side conversation with yourselves if there's anything in more detail that you want to explore. Our deadline for applications is the 6th of July. And with regret, we're not able to accept any late applications because following that deadline, all the applications will go off for external assessment. So we do need to be careful of respecting the timeline. We anticipate, subject to the number of applications, that you would hear the outcome to your application by the 1st of September. Obviously, we've got an expanded application round with 2 emerging leaders courses. So it's a little bit of a longer timeline in terms of hearing back from us than in previous rounds. As I said before, we've got 24 places on each course, and we will have a small waiting list as well. We can provide support, and we are able to accept alternative formats to an application, but please do get in touch with us in advance so that we know that that's how you're planning on applying and that we can support you accordingly. And with deep regret, we're not able to provide individual feedback for candidates who are unsuccessful. As a kind of usual sort of volume, we would receive around about 120 applications for each of our courses. And we are a very small team at Clore Leadership. There are 4 of us in the programs team and a couple of additional team members who support as well from the central team. But you'll understand our capacity is really, really limited. So with really great regret, we're not able to provide individual feedback. What I would say, though, is if you do want input before you apply, we're more than happy to support you pre-application. So that's the end of my presentation around the courses applications. At this point, I wanted to introduce some of our courses alumni who are going to speak briefly a little bit about their experiences on the Clore Leadership course, what it's meant for them and impact after they've finished. So first of all, can I introduce Uto Patrick? Uto, where are you?
Can you see me?
Yay, there you are, Uto. So thanks very much, Uto, for joining us. Would you share with the group any insights, any thinking, what the impact's been for you, and any top tips?
I'll do a really quick one. Well, I took the course last year. Our course had been delayed because of COVID, but then we were able to meet as a group. So we had our first few sessions on Zoom, and then we had our residentials in person. What I've taken away from the sessions, has been, I think, perhaps increased confidence, and how to, I think, put myself in other people's shoes. And I'll give an example. I work for the British Library as a project manager. I've got quite a large team. I, as a career project manager, I'm very task orientated. I'm really smiling. I'm very task orientated, and I work with a very creative team. And sometimes it usually causes a clash in sense of keeping to time, budgets, etc. But some of the modules in the course really helped me put myself in the seat of a creative and what goes on in the thinking process and how they approach the same type of work that I would approach. And so it's helped me have better conversations with my team. Another aspect I've really benefited from is the coaching and the type of questions that you ask your team members or your colleagues to elicit specific, to elicit better responses. I did the Pulse. I think someone's just asked, what did I do? I did the Pulse course last year. So the 2 things I've really benefited from is understanding my leadership style more in a cultural context, and how it relates to working with people who perhaps are not, very task-driven, and how to ensure that we work well as a team and get to deliver our work where everybody is happy at the end of the day. And then also ensuring that you're having good conversations with your team members to pick out where there potentially any issues so that you can help people along the way, and you don't have like a big explosion at the end. So you're able to nip things in the bud as they happen. So honest conversations, and asking interesting questions. Without going on, I think I'll stop there.
Thank you very much, Uto. And when we come to the queue, I will field the questions from the chat. I can see questions coming in, and I'll come to those once we've heard from all our alumni. And if you want to follow up any questions with the alumni, absolutely fine. We can take those questions as well. Kate, are you in the space as well?
Hi, yes. Hi. So my name's Kate, and I did the Emerging Leaders course in 2019. No, 2020, actually, just slipping in before the pandemic, so I was able to do a residential. I think I wanted to say a little bit about who I am, as well as doing the course, just as encouragement to you. So I'm a disabled and neurodivergent person. I'm also a parent. So I'm also in my mid-30s. And I say that because when Kate said there's no age barrier, that was so important to me. I felt a bit like a course called Emerging Leaders was maybe something that I was too old for. But when I started reading about it, I understood that that wasn't the case, and it was really enlightening, because some other kind of courses do have like age limits, and I'm above all of them. Also, I applied as an individual, so I'm a freelancer. I was working for an organisation at the time, but I applied just as myself, and so I applied as for a kind of underrepresented person bursary as a disabled person. I got a full bursary. I also had, my daughter was under 2 at the time, and it did have kind of cost implications for childcare, so I got a childcare bursary as well, and I just think it was so fantastic. I just wanted to give that context. I'm basically encouraging you to go for it. Don't think you're too old, you've got too many needs, you're a parent, how will it work? Like, go for it, and Clore really help you make it work. But in terms of what I got out of it, I mean, the number one thing is the network of friends and colleagues. We talk all the time, we meet up, we do things together, we support each other. So from anything from congratulating someone who's made the next step in their career, or had a baby, or through to saying, I'm having this really tricky time, I know this is a safe space, can you help me? And being able to have like safe space conversations with these people who, even though I think Emerging Leaders is like it used to be, I don't know if it's changed, like 5 days, you spend so much time together, and you're doing this work on yourself together, that you become quite close. Or maybe I was just fortunate, but I do think other cohorts have had similar experiences. And I think as well, my style as a leader, like, I'm quite softly spoken, I'm quite a gentle person, I'm quite considered, I'm a woman, I'm disabled. There were things about me that maybe because of the world we live in, I felt like I didn't have what it takes to be a leader, because I had this sort of wrong idea of what a leader might be, but I think we all absorb what's around us. And I just love that the course just helps you find a way for your own leadership style, whoever you are. Anyone could be a leader, as long as you've got the passion and the desire to do it. And you don't have to be a kind of brash, kind of loud person. It sounds so obvious, but I do think we absorb all these things, or I certainly do. And being a disabled person, worrying that we perceived as a weakness in a leadership context, and kind of getting rid of those fears, it was really helpful for that. It's not something that the course specifically addressed, but it was something that I was able to work through. And it's also a space, like if you're someone who, if you're applying for the course, I think a lot of people are probably quite busy people, you're in busy roles or a busy freelancer. It gives you space, like especially if you do go on a residential, to just focus on you and your development, and that's so kind of rare. It's really rare, and it's like a wonderful opportunity to have time and space to just, because you're away from your everyday responsibilities or your everyday role at work, it kind of clears your mind and gives you that space. Yeah, and the environment is, I found it so sort of open, and if something wasn't working, you felt able to say, oh, could we just look at it like this? Or even just a simple thing like music was sometimes played during our sessions when we were doing solo work, and it didn't work for someone in the space, and we just agreed that we'd do it in silence instead. But it's just like the place where you feel able to speak up and say what you need. Anyway, I think I've said a lot, so I'll stop there.
Thank you very much, Kate. That's really helpful and really encouraging insights. Thank you very much. Emily, can I turn to you now, Emily?
Yeah, of course. Hello. I did the Pulse. I was lucky to be with Uta, so I adore her. As part of our cohort, we have a brilliant cohort. So I think that's probably, Kate touched on that a little bit, but it is the people that you sort of go through the course with. And I think there were 23 of us, all spread all over the country. And we've already, we only finished in November. And we've already met up several times, and in small groups and in big groups. And I was doing a show in Manchester, and 2 of the boys came down. And so that sort of support has been really great. And I think that helps give you a confidence, because you feel like there are some people that have your back, that if you run into situations, and we've got a lot of that in our group at the moment, people's organizations, their careers are going through periods of change coming out of COVID. And it's sort of very important to have people you can go, do I want to do this? What's this? We do need to go do a walk and talk. That's kind of, I think, a lot of the stuff that comes up for us. But like Kate said, I have a disability. I'm a single parent, and everything was really supported across the board. I'm also a freelancer, so I put myself forwards for the course. And I think I was really worried going in, I wouldn't have as much to add in some of the situations, especially around corporate structure and things like that, and working within organizations. But actually, I had just as much to bring to the table, I think. That's the great thing of a table of 23 people, everybody's experiences. We had people that work as archivists, we have people that are running huge organizations in, say, museums or like Uta, and we have people that are running small community theater organizations that are really embedded in the community. So being able to understand and hear from all of those people, their challenges. For me personally, I think I went into it as a very reluctant leader. I kind of didn't want to have to lead, and came out of it a very confident leader who is much more assured of her place, much understands my leadership style a lot more. There was a huge, if you get to do the 4 seasons, you will learn a lot about yourself and other people. But that was just a really helpful tool. And even actually, I've been doing a lot of stuff this week on governance, and we all were like, oh God, there's a session on governance. But actually, it was one of the most interesting, fun sessions of the whole week. And we just absolutely loved it. And that's really practical, hands-on information that can be really helpful when you're writing an application for a CIO, like I am at the moment. So yeah, I would sort of say those sorts of things were the big takeaways for me.
Thank you very, very much, Emily, for sharing your insights as well. So thank you to our 3 alumni. I'm going to turn now, because I know we've got questions in the chat, and I'm going to try and, what I will do is I'll read them out and I'll try and answer them as we go. If you've got any more that you want to pop in, please do put them in. If you also have questions for alumni, absolutely happy to field those to Emily, Uto, or Kate as we go. So first question came in from Valina. Apologies, Valina, if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly. Question, is there still Clore support for helping education learning staff into leadership? We don't specifically have a bursary, if that was the angle of this particular question, for learning related teams. But what I would say is across the application base and within cohorts, we have a real mixture of different roles. So you may find that you have members of staff who are involved in marketing. You might have freelance artists, producers, members of learning teams. It might be kind of more front of house type roles, creative roles. So there's a real mixture of different roles within the cohort, as the alumni have already spoken about as well. How do we know, Sadie's asking, how do we know if our organisation is eligible for a subsidised place bursary? So the subsidised places, that's through our funding through Arts Council or through some of the other funders. So you need to just double check whether your work sits within the Arts Council footprint, or whether if you're, for example, if you're in Creative Scotland, whether your work would within Scotland, whether your work would sit within the footprint of Creative Scotland. In terms of the bursary eligibility, we have a page, 2 pages on our website, one for each course, where you can read about the different bursary eligibility criteria. So you would be able to read there about whether you meet the criteria for that specific bursary. Lucy, am I pinned at the moment? Can I just ask? I can just see.
You're pinned on my screen, but I think individuals might have to pin you on their screens as well.
Sorry, technical question there, folks. I could just see, not myself. Okay, Megan was asking, how would you decide on fees if the organisation you are in is voluntary, a professional interest group, so would not match the number of employees? The fee bands that we charge are related to the size of your organisation. So it would be the same case if you're working within an organisation that is not arts and culture. I think we had a separate question regarding this, whether you are eligible to apply if you're not employed by or working within an arts and culture organisation. I would say you'd need to be careful that you're clear that your work has a clear focus around arts and culture. So an example might be if you work for a voluntary sector organisation, but your role is really clearly related to arts and cultural activity. If it's only partly related, you're doing a little bit of this and a little bit of arts and culture, I would say that it would be more difficult to make the case about the impact that attending the course will make on the arts and culture sector. So not an issue if your organisation's remit is more broad, but your role as the applicant does need to be squarely footed in arts and culture. Kate was asking, how do you decide on fees for freelancers or people who would not receive any funding from their employer? The fee bands are set on the size of operation. So if you're a freelancer, you would be in one of the smaller fee bands. But what I would say is that the bursary support that we offer, one of the bursaries is around support for cultural sector leaders whose work has been impacted by the pandemic. And as a freelancer, there may be a case that you can make that your work has been impacted by the pandemic. There may also be other bursary support that as a freelancer you're able to apply for as well. And as I said earlier, we wouldn't offer you a course place without a bursary if you've requested a bursary. So you're not going to get a nasty bill for X amount for a course fee that you're not able to pay without the bursary support to support that, if that makes sense. I need to put my teeth back in again. Okay, scrolling down to our next question. Valina's asked, who would a suitable nominator be for a freelancer? So really, we're keen to hear from your nominator as somebody who really understands you and your work and your potential as a leader. So as a freelancer, it might be somebody that you've collaborated with previously. It might be a project partner who's commissioned you and kind of knows your work really, really well, who can speak to your leadership, your change making. So it does need to be somebody who knows you really, really well. Tina has asked a similar question to the one about subsidised fees and bursaries for freelance artists, freelance small studio groups. Again, the fee bands are based on your size of operation. So if you've got 3 people, you need to look at which fee band correlates. But again, I go back to this point about the bursaries. We're not going to offer you a course place without a bursary if you have indicated that you need a bursary. How many applications do you usually get, and how competitive is the process? Anne's asking. It's really competitive. We get a really high volume of applications, usually at least 120 for each of the courses that we're applying for. So it's really, really competitive. 24 course places on each, and we will have a small waiting list as well. So it is really, really competitive. Someone's had a fire alarm. I hope that's all sorted now for you, James. There's a question there for Uto, which I think Uto's already answered. Julian's asking, hi, can I ask if attendance to the Pulse programme would negatively impact on an application for the Clore Fellowship? Could one still be considered for the fellowship if you've attended another Clore programme? Absolutely, yes, yes. There's no stipulation that once you've attended a Clore course, you are not able to apply for the Clore Fellowship if you wanted to at a later date. Simone is asking, which email address should we write to if we would like to speak to someone to try and understand which course might be best suited to us? The best email address is our courses one. So it's courses@cloreleadership.org. And that email address is on the web pages as well. So if you drop that, drop a note to our courses@cloreleadership.org email address, a member of the team will pick that up, and we can either reply by email, or we can arrange just to have a side conversation or a side Zoom, whatever you kind of need in terms of access to take that forward. I think, Matthew, I've just answered your question as well. Simone's asking, would we have to apply to the Arts Council ourselves? No. The bursary support, the subsidised fees are through funding that Clore Leadership's received, so you don't need to apply. We have had on occasion applicants who have applied for their own professional development pot of money. That's absolutely cool if you want to go down that lines, but in terms of the subsidy we're offering and the bursaries, that comes through Clore Leadership, and that bursary would be applied, to your course fee. So it might be that you just don't get a course fee invoice, or if it's a part fee bursary, that you get a smaller course fee invoice. Afra's sharing a positive comment, positive to hear from alumni. Thank you very much for that comment, Afra. And Kate's just sharing there. She's saying, I should have said I'm a theatre practitioner as my background and art form. Andy Amy, I can't read. Amy is sending apologies for joining late and asking, how strict is the length of time someone has to have held in a role in industry for? For example, if someone's worked in a certain position in the arts for a longer period, but had this time disrupted by having children. Amy, I would say that we kind of understand that pathways into leadership and also life journeys can take different routes. So if you're uncertain about what level of experience you're kind of, and which sort of course category you would fit in, organise to have a side email or a side conversation with a member of the team. But we're not going to look at your application and say, oh, between 2017 and 2018, somebody wasn't in employment. We're not going to be looking and interrogating the dates in that much detail. And we do, recognise that people take time off for caring responsibilities to have children. So we will be flexible in our approach about how we would consider experience timelines. Also recognising that at the moment there's been challenges to employment as well. So if you're currently out of work because of changes in employment status because of the pandemic, please don't think that that would preclude you if you're actively working to get back into employment or freelance work. We understand that there are significant challenges to cultural sector leaders, artists, producers at the moment. So please don't feel, that a change in your employment status means that you're not able to apply. Simone's asking, so if I'm a freelancer, that equals 1 employee. Yes, yes. But I would again refer you back to, because of this fee bands, I would again refer back to that the issue of the bursary support and where there may be bursary support for you as a freelancer, because we do appreciate the course fees, which do reflect the cost of putting together the course. They're high. So that's why we're trying to load as much bursary support into each application round as we possibly can. Persilia's asking, is there a detailed outline of the content and possible contributors I'm interested in polls? There isn't, Persilia, and again, apologies if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly there. There isn't a detailed outline on the website. It does give you a breakdown of the kind of blocks, but if you wanted to have a more detailed conversation about some of our regular contributors, we'd be happy to have a side conversation about that. Christina is asking, if you apply for a bursary, but you're not selected or don't meet the criteria, will you still be offered a place and have the option to pay the relevant fees? Yes, yes. If you don't meet the bursary criteria and you still want to put in an application, you're absolutely welcome to do so. And if you were selected through the application process and assessment process, yes, we do sometimes offer full course fee places. Putting my teeth in, I think, the 3rd time today. Julie is asking, if you're based in Ireland, should the application bursary be made to the Arts Council of Ireland? So in terms of Irish applicants, for this round of courses, we don't have any bursary support available from Arts Council Ireland. So you would technically be regarded as an outside UK applicant. So that's for the Republic of Ireland at least. So you would be eligible for the unsubsidised course fee. But as I said before, some applicants do undertake their own fundraising, their own kind of development, seeker development budget, either from their organisation or a freelancer if there are sources available to help underpin the cost of a course. So yeah, unfortunately not for this round, we don't have support from Arts Council Ireland, but again, there may be support available locally in the Republic of Ireland. Harriet's asking, what are the sort of backgrounds those facilitating the courses have? We have facilitators that we've worked with for many years, and we've also just having some new additions to the facilitator pool, and they come from a range of different backgrounds, different practices. We've got a lot of the facilitator team are professional coaches. Some of them undertake training. Quite a few are previous Clore fellows. Some of them are working professionally as artists in theatre or in film writing. So they come from a range of different backgrounds, but they have all worked with the exception of our new members to the facilitator pool. They've worked with us for a very long time. So they are used to supporting Clore leaders as they go through that residential process. Is it possible to access the questions on the application form so you can be working on the draft answers while waiting? Absolutely, Tilly. Tilly's asking whether you can have access to the application questions. They are in the essential guide to making your application online, so they are listed there. It doesn't give you the full list of, can I have your name, your email address. We do have a Word version of the application if you want that granular detail, but the actual narrative questions are listed in the essential guide. So yeah. Are working class applicants considered to be underrepresented in Leaders in Arts and Culture? Donna's asking that question. Yes, if you can make the case within your eligibility criteria question, absolutely, yes. Wow, I think I've made it through to the end of the questions. Okay, did anybody, and we've got 12 minutes to go. Fantastic. Just to invite, if there are any remaining questions that anybody wants to ask at this moment, I'm absolutely happy to take them. I'm also happy to stay on this Zoom call until 11 o'clock if anybody just wanted to have a very quick side conversation. But if not, and it looks like there aren't any more questions, that's the end of our Q&A session. So a huge thank you for coming along. Huge thank you for all your detailed questions. I'm hoping that I've managed to answer everything that's been in the chat, but also those that have been submitted in advance of this session. We will put the recording of today's session onto the Clore Leadership website once we've had a chance to download. There will also be Diana, our fantastic note taker, who's in the background somewhere, will be précis note taking for this session. So there will be some notes and a verbatim transcript as well available from our captioners. So thank you very, very much to everybody for coming along, to our Access team for supporting today. Uto.
There's one question, and
yes.
someone has, I think Julie Ann has a quick question.
Julianne.
Sorry,
Julianne.
I'll just do it, it'll be quicker. There's an opportunity for me to apply to the Arts Council of Ireland for development and training. The deadline's in a couple of weeks. Would it be possible to get some sort of letter of support, or is that kind of putting the horse before the cart? Or
I'd say, Julie, that might be a little bit cart before the horse, because we won't be able to.
Or whatever, yeah, I got that wrong.
Because the assessment process, once you've applied, we have double assessments. There are 2 assessors who review all the applications, and the team review them as well. If you wanted a letter indicating that you've submitted an application, that's something we could help with, but we wouldn't be able to give you an indicative yes or no until the full assessment process has gone through, and we wouldn't be able to support, if you like, in that respect. But we could certainly say
to be evidence
yes,
that I've done it.
The application is in has been submitted and is in train.
Okay, thanks.
Christina's got another quick question. What is the difference between Pulse and the fellowship? Okay, so Leadership Pulse is a 2-module, 2-week residential course, plus the coaching support that we've talked about already. So it's quite a contained piece of development, and it's residential only in scope. The Clore Fellowship is a much longer development scheme, and together with the residentials that are involved in the fellowship, you also will undertake a variety of different sort of mini projects, placements, coaching, and you would also receive a development budget which you can allocate to your own training. So it's a much longer term development scheme. I'd say it kind of there's more depth in terms of the directions that it takes you in, and it's also there's also support embedded within the fellowship to release you to be able to attend, because it's much longer. So there is bursary support to backfill you as a freelancer or backfill your role within an organisation. So it's a kind of more meatier proposition in terms of time commitment. I hope that answers your question, Christina. I'm just going to scroll to the end. I think that's everybody's questions. Huge apologies if I've missed you. I'm trying to keep one eye on what's going in the chat. It's a bit of a multitask, but as I said before, the team are really happy to offer additional support, either be it with an application in an alternative format, or if you've got more questions. So please do get in touch with us, and we're happy to pick that one up individually with you. Thank you very, very much to our 3 alumni for speaking about their experiences, to yourselves for coming along today, and also our Access team, and my colleague Lucy behind the scenes, who's doing sterling work driving our Zoom room today. Thank you ever so much for coming. Go well for the rest of your day, and we look forward to receiving an application. Thanks very much.